Now, before you even send your code to the Python interpreter, you are alerted of these grammatical mistakes by the editor, the software editor that you're using when writing code. Let me use an analogy again. When you write books, you use Microsoft Word. This is an editing software. So let's have a look at it. So first, I'm going to write the name of the first chapter, chapter 1. This is going to be the name for the chapter, and then I'll start writing. My name is not John Luke. So the editor here, the software, Microsoft Word, is telling me that there is a mistake, a grammatical mistake, and yet it's not recognized as an English word. What I meant to say is not. What I meant to use is the word not. So let's go back to coding. For coding, there also is a software for editing your code. Now there's many of this, but the one I will be using in this course is called VS Code, which is an acronym for Visual Studio Code. And this is a software used both by beginners, because it's easy to start with, and professionally, so you will not be missing anything. It's good for everyone. And you will also be able to use it for any other languages that you learn. Now, what I have to reveal to you is that this is actually VS Code. The software that you're seeing, the place through which I've been teaching you, is VS Code. I've hidden a few things just for visual appeal. There's many panes that you are not able of seeing. For example, this one on the side. Can you see now? Right. It's not visible. And there's many other things down, up, on both sides that you're not capable of seeing now. And again, it's just for visual appeal. And from the next lesson, I will make everything visible. So I will make everything visible because that, I think, will be more practical. But I want to show you what actually happens when you send a program to the Python interpreter and the program is correct, and when, instead, the program is grammatically incorrect. So the first example is this one. This is actual code. The rest that I've been writing here is not code. And I will tell you why it is not code. First of all, let's go over again what this keyword does. This is a print function, and it displays whatever is placed within the parentheses on the screen. So what I have to do now is show it to you. To do that, I will have to go to the corner here, click, and go over Run Python file. And this is what you're seeing, 1, which is something which is being displayed on the screen. Now this is the place, this is the space in the VS Code software where you're shown the response from the Python interpreter. Let's give you another example of something that works. Let's go with +1 or +2. And there's no need for a space, but the space will not change anything for you. And we go again. 3. And this is the result, which is being shown on the screen. You might have noticed that the previous responses are still kept in the terminal for you to see. This is called terminal. So if you want to clear that out, you can simply type clear. So the next time it will be just cleaner. So let's now type something which is written incorrectly, and that is print with double N. Before I run it, I want to explain to you why the error was not being highlighted before. This was because of the usage of the hashtag. You might have noticed that I've used hashtags throughout the whole lesson, and this was not a choice of style. What the hashtag does, it allows you to create comments. Comments are written alongside code to describe what a certain piece of code does, to describe what lines of code do. For example, this line of code does this thing. And it is useful because you might have written a program and then come back a few days after, and you may not perfectly remember what your program did, and the comments help you to remember. Also, when you read someone else's code, their comments will help you to understand the code. Whatever is a comment is ignored by the Python interpreter. What it means is that when you send this to the Python interpreter, it will ignore everything that has an hashtag, and this will not be ultimately translated into binary code. This is not instruction for the PC. It's just for you to read. This is the instruction. So by placing an hashtag here, I made so that this was not recognized as code. Therefore, there was no error being highlighted. There were no alerts for me to see. But if I remove it, I see the alerts. Now let's run it. So you see 3 here, and that's because this line was run. But then there was an issue with this line where it says print with 2 N's. And it also tells you on what line the error occurred. This is the line 239, which is this one. Now, I've told you that I've hidden a few things. In fact, on the side, there are numbers by default. There's indexing. Now, in this case, the error is name print is not defined. What it is telling you is that this print function is not recognized as an existing function. It's not being recognized. It does not exist. You understand? It does not exist. In fact, it is asking you, did you mean print with 1 N? If you look below here. Now, you do not always get these suggestions, but sometimes you do. And with time and practice, you'll be able to understand what these messages mean. Now we just gotta fix it and clear it first because I like it clean, and run it again. 3, the first line, and 1, the second line. So what happens again is the code is edited in VS Code, in this case VS Code, but you can use other editing softwares, and it's passed to the machine by the Python interpreter. So I've told you that VS Code is an editing software, just like Microsoft Word, but for code. But another way of calling it is an IDE. VS Code is an IDE. What this stands for is Integrated Development Environment. So what does this mean? Why is it called an integrated development environment? Well, it is a development environment because this is the place where you build your programs. And it is considered integrated because it puts different tools together in the same software to facilitate the development of programs. What this suggests is that by default, or in the past, things were different. You did not have things, tools integrated all in the same place. If you remember, what I explained to you is that you write your code and you send it to the Python interpreter. And all this can be done within the software, VS Code. But you do not need to do that. The basics are that you write your code and you can write it wherever you want. One difference, for example, is that you will not be receiving error alerts, right? So this is why the write in this VS Code is more helpful. But let's show you how you could run a program without the need of the software. So let's do it. The first thing I will do is to write the program, and you could write it anywhere. For example, you could write it in somewhere as simple as a notepad. And I am showing you this example again because this is what you're familiar with for now. I'm going to save this file. I will save it here, and I will call this my program.py. I will go here and click all files. So what the py extension does, it tells the operating system what kind of file this is, that this is a Python file. And this, for many reasons, is simply a requirement by the operating system, but also is a requirement for when you write code in VS Code. And I will tell you later why. Let's save this. I had already created one like this, so let's just replace it. And now we have to send it to the Python interpreter. Now, the way we can access the Python interpreter directly is by using a shell software. What the shell software is a software that allows you to access different parts of your computer, to control components on your computer through text. And this is an example of it, PowerShell. It's called a shell software. But instead of using icons and mouse clicks and a cursor, you will write text in it. It's like messaging various parts of the computer through text and requesting actions. But you do not have to use PowerShell. There also is Command Prompt, which perhaps you're more familiar with. But these are the shell softwares that you find on Windows. If you're on Linux, you might be more accustomed to Bash. Or if you're on macOS, you might be more accustomed to Z shell. Anyways, if you're on Windows and you want to be a programmer, what is suggested is that you use PowerShell because it has more features which are more suitable for programmers. So if you start using this from now on, it will just make things better for you for the future. Let's go back to PowerShell. We said that we want to send our program to the Python interpreter. The way we do it is we call the Python interpreter. And the way you do this in Windows, you type py and you write the name of the program. You tell the Python interpreter what program to run. In this case, my program was called my program. That's simply the way I called it. And I add the extension. And now I press enter and let's see what happens. By the way, before I press enter, I should make you aware that on Linux operating systems and on macOS, the way you run a program through the terminal is different. You do not use this. You use this, Python 3, and the rest is the same. So my program.py. But on my operating system, which is Windows, I will use this way, py, my program.py. And now I press enter. And there is an error message. The program was not executed. And the reason is that no such file or directory was found. This program was not found. Why is that? That is because you often require to access the region where this program is saved. So that is the folder where the program is saved. To do that, you could look for your program through the search bar, my program. I go here, right click, you left click on copy path. So what I have to do now is to access that folder. And the way you do it is by typing cd and you paste that address. And the folder within which your program is this one, Python files. So we do not actually need this part. And what cd stands for is change directory. What directory is, you can think of it as another word for folder. So you could say it as change folder. So change folder to this one. Right, now I press enter. Oops, there is another mistake. a positional parameter cannot be found that accepts argument right. So what is the reason here for this mistake? It's in John Luke, because there is a white space. For file and folder names, it is not suggested that you use white spaces. And for that, there is a convention in programming, which is the one I followed in the naming of this program, which suggests to use lower dashes in places where you wished to use white spaces. So we cannot run this program this way for this reason. But in this case, if you really want to access this folder, the way you could do it is by wrapping the path within quotes. Let's do this. CD again, open quotes, close quotes. Okay. And now this should work. Cool. Now we can run our program by my program, and this will work. I pressed enter, and the number 1 was displayed on the screen. We can close this now. As I was telling you, PowerShell is what is most used by programmers that are on Windows. But if you are on macOS, your option is to use Bash, but the one that is most popular is Z Shell, and for Linux, that is Bash. And I believe Linux users can also use Z Shell. By the way, PowerShell has been for a few years made cross-platform, which means that if you will ever want to use a macOS or a Linux computer, you will be able to install PowerShell on those operating systems as well. So before I told you that .py is an extension that you need to put at the end of your file name because it is something required by the operating system, but I also told you that it is something required by VS Code. And why is that? The reason is that you do not necessarily write a program in Python in VS Code. You could write it in any language. So because the rules of grammar are different for every language, VS Code needs to know for what language it needs to give you suggestions. It needs to alert you of mistakes. So by using this extension, you tell it, this is a Python program, give me suggestions based on the rules of the Python language.